Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
As always, the Ramble is sponsored by Action Coach Sheffield. If you're a growing business and you want support to continue that growth, they are the people to speak to. Thank you for joining the team for their continued support for the Ramble. Today's Ramble is sponsored by Wellstoned Landscapes. From lawn to luxury, creating outdoor elegance. Wellstoned Landscapes covers most areas of Yorkshire. If you mention the Ramble when asking for a quote, you'll receive 10% off any work. Call Paul or find him on Facebook in the details below. What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I'm, of course, Jimmy, and this is the day after Tuesday. This is our new weekly show on this day of the week. So we are here. We are live. We haven't set a specific time for this show yet. We're going to test a few different time slots. I appreciate we're going early today, but I have got some filming commitments later today, so I have to come on early. And this, it's one of those rambles where, because it's not talking about absolute current thing, the next thing that's coming along, it may not get the immediate traction that that some of our rambles do, but I love doing these, and it's been one of our most requested rambles. It's a very, if you've not seen a ramble squad assessment, squad build before, this will it's something different. It's something I've come up with myself, but I'm quite proud of it. We've tweaked it, we've refined it. We still do that all the time. And I'm happy to take feedback on how you think it should be done going forward. But I love how we assess the depth of our squad. So to take you through it very, very shortly, I will be doing that, but I'm not going to be doing it alone this morning. I'm going to be joined by my mate.
This is the view from the mountain. With a heart so pure, it's astounding. Man Mountain, strong and true. What a man, what a view.
Good morning, Man Mountain. How are you this morning?
I'm well, James. Enjoying my half-term holiday. So, yeah, I know. Yeah, set the alarm this morning. Thanks a lot. Yeah, appreciate that.
Sorry.
Just remind me of a work day. That's fine. No.
Oh yeah. Do you were all out of bed at 9:15 on a work day, then, do you?
Yeah. Of course I do. No. Yeah. Thanks for having us on, Jim. Yeah, it's nice to natural light look.
I know, mate. I know it's brilliant
outside. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
No, you're looking well, mate. Studio's looking great now.
Studio. I love the way you call it studio, mate. It's the office / box room, and
but it looks well, mate. It looks
well. Thank you. Yes.
I don't think Mrs. Mountain will be working from home in that room, will she? So it's
that's done. Yeah, she's done a parents' evening on here, mate. She
blurred background.
She didn't. She left it up, and
nice.
Some of the parents commented on the wall behind. It's like, yeah, my husband's fault. I was like, yeah. It's
nice, mate. Right. So you know why we're here today. You've been a long time Rambler, so you know exactly what this is all about. This is where we will go through our squad, and I've got some Ramble rules here that we talk about. So you get I'm grading every player, and it's 2 per position. So for a great, if you score 1 out of 5, you're poor. If you get 2 out of 5, you're unproven or average. If you get 3 out of 5, you're solid or good. 4 out of 5 is very good, and 5 out of 5 is obviously excellent. The rules are only 1 player for 1 position. So you can't consider Gus Hamer an 8 and a 10 and a left winger. You've just got to put him in 1 of those positions. You can't repeat any player. And if there's a reasonable third option, no matter how good they are, it's a +1 to the total. So what happens is here, we get 1 out of 5, then we double it for the strength of the position. Straightforward?
Oh, mate, no rigor at all there. +1 for you're good job. You're at the wheel, mate.
Mate, honestly, it is as simple as it looks. It is as simple as it looks. 1 to 5, you get graded out of 5 as a player, and you get the person behind you who's fighting for your shirt also gets 1 to 5. If there's a third option, which left back would be your obvious first shout for that. Or even goalkeeper, you get a +1. Because even if, we'll talk about it. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
So
you sound, Jim. Don't threat.
this first one will tell you exactly what you need to know. So first up, and Paul, I know you were considering doing your own, but it was a late shout that I asked you to come on. So you're just going to critique mine, which sounds a bit like how most rambles go.
I'll just keep you honest. I'll keep you honest. Don't worry.
And again, a reminder: this is not super serious. This is only my opinion. This doesn't mean you can't have a different opinion. I want you to get your comments in. Let me know what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and we'll see where we go from there. So starting us off today is Michael Cooper. Excellent. Absolutely no doubt about it. So 5 out of 5 for Michael Cooper. And then what we do from here is we go to who's behind Michael Cooper and we rate them out of 5 as well. And then you'll get a complete strength rating for the position. Luke Faxon gets a 2 because he's unproven. Can't give him a 3. Can't say he's solid to good. We haven't seen enough of him. So I'm giving him a 2. So number 2, if you're reminded on the Ramble rules, is unproven or average. So Luke Faxon for me gets a 2. Now Adam Davis is also in the mix. So I could give him a 2 for being average, but because it's a third option, he's a +1.
So are we putting him behind Faxon then? Is he third in the pecking order now?
I think so.
That's my only question here.
I think so, but you could also switch him round because I would give Davis a 2 as well because I think he's average rather than unproven. And then it's a +1 for your third, however good you rate him. So I think total position for goalkeeper is 8 in terms of 8 out of 10 for how good we are and how secure we are in that goalkeeper position. So they're the first ones on the field. What do you think to that, mate? Do you think we're about right with that?
Yeah, it's just going to be me nodding along, I reckon, because that's that was pretty easy, wasn't it? I'm not going to argue with Michael Cooper. Oh, he's not a 5, is he? Oh God.
Some of them aren't as straightforward, mate, and I understand that some people may disagree. So, like the right back, for example, has been a much talked about position for us. And remember, you can only have one player for one position. So if you don't see a name you're expecting here, then you can bet he'll turn up in a different position. So my first right back, and this doesn't mean his first choice by any means, because you'll see that from the scores. Harry Clark gets a 3. A good, solid option at right back. Any qualms with that, Paolo? Anything that you think you disagree with there?
No, well, that's the thing for him. I think he's yet to be proven. Really, he hasn't had enough games, has he? I guess he's been a little bit up and down. That's
I considered him being unproven because of he's unproven for Sheffield United, if you like. But he has got a promotion to the Premier League on his CV, and he's played consistently for Ipswich up until they got promoted. So I think for this level, I would still consider him a good to solid option for us at right back.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. He could be a 4 in 5 games' time.
Yeah, he could.
He could easily be a 4. So yeah, he's been up and down, hasn't he? So he's had games where you thought, oh, that was decent, and he had one where he struggled, and we focused on that a little bit because it was just an all-round poor performance. But no, I think that's fair enough, Jim. 3 at the minute. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what you're saying about some of the others in this position because.
Okay. Well, there we go then.
I think. Oh, go on. There we go.
Sariki is a 3. And Sariki's a really difficult one to grade because at times he's definitely a 4 and sometimes you could even push him to a 5. He's certainly not consistently a 5. I could be argued to the point where he's a 4, but he's never been a consistent starter for us. And that's sometimes maybe down to fitness as well. But I also think he's a really strong impact player for us. And until I don't think he's quite refined his game. He's a good option. He's certainly good to very good. But do you think I've been slightly harsh there? You could even say he's unproven over the course of a full season as well. So there's a sliding scale with Femi Sariki. I've probably heard on side of caution a little bit going with a 3, and that gives us a total of 6 for our right backs. And they go on the board as 6 overall strength at right back. So what's your thoughts on that, mate?
Well, my thoughts are you've shimmied Gilchrist somewhere, aren't you? You shimmied him into centre half. Is that what you've done?
I think we have to do. I think we have when we're looking at overall squad depth. Look, you could overload us at right back, and that would have given us a 7 because he's a third option. But then what do we have at centre half? What do we have? It's weak, isn't it? So in terms of depth, because that's what we're assessing here, isn't it? Squad depth.
Do you honestly see him as, you don't see him as the third right back? You see him as the centre half.
I could see him as first right back, to be honest, mate. But I think he's the only one of the three that can shift inside. And if we're talking about where are we in terms of depth across the whole squad, I think we have to consider moving him inside. I think he will be considered to move inside. I think he's the fourth choice centre back. Don't get me wrong. So he's also at the minute looks to be second or third choice right back. So
I think this is indicative of real life, isn't it? I think he's become a spare part overnight almost, and I do feel a bit sorry for him.
Not half.
He had a few games, and we spoke about Peck needing his rest and needing to came back roaring back. But he needed a rest, didn't he? And he's a similar sort of age, isn't he? He's still a young player who's never played
21
consecutive games like Gilchrist, and it's a funny one. It's a funny one, the right back position, because I just feel like it could be on any given day. You could argue that one of the three is better than the other two.
Yeah, you could.
You know what I mean?
They all have different strengths, don't they? They all have different.
Yeah, they do, and I think that the exciting one is obviously Sariki, isn't it? Because if he came into the side and then had 10 games unanswered at right back, he could be a star player for us next season. Good. So yeah, it's exciting, but no, I don't know, mate. It's a tricky one, the right back, isn't it? Because I think Gilchrist has been dealt a bit of a rough hand, really, and I think he's out due to the circumstances the club's put him in with the
6 loans. The 6 loans has done him.
Because he's one of those that's been left out the squad, but you'd argue that he would have got on the pitch.
Of course he would. Not just the bench, he'd have got on the pitch. He would.
In the games where he's been left out the squad. So I think it's tricky. I don't know. I don't know if you're smudging it a bit, putting Gilchrist in at centre half. I don't think we'll see him play there this year.
Oh yeah. No, well, no, it's unlikely because he's, as I say, I think he's fourth choice. So when Robbo or Anel comes out, Holding goes in, and if they're the three, aren't they? They're the rotated three for centre back. But
I don't think we'll see him in there this season.
Yeah, he's become like the ultimate reserve now, hasn't he? Unfortunately, which is a real shame for him. So moving on to right centre half then, which may now be no shock to anybody. I've got Rob Holding in as a good to solid option. I would be up for talking about him as very good because I'm a big fan of Rob Holding, but I think it's only fair, and you've got to go with what a lot of Blades fans will think in terms of we haven't nearly seen anywhere enough of him, and you could go on past reputation, but he hasn't played consistently for 2 years. So to say he's a good option is about right, I think. And behind Rob Holding, Alfie Gilchrist as a good to solid option, as a backup right centre back, giving us a total of 6 strength at right centre half. And they get on the pitch as 6 as well. So there's a bit of a pattern forming here. What's your thoughts on that, mate?
I think for the time that we're doing this, then you've got an argument to say he's a 3. I think Rob Holding in this division represents a better score than that.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. And it's a snapshot, this, isn't it? Like you said, come end of season, we might be saying Femi Sariki's a 5. If he starts in last 10 games and has a real impact, which he's the potential to do, he could be a 4 or a 5 quite easily. Rob Holding the same if he gets in the side, mate, because at the minute Robinson's still keeping him out. So
I think Rob Holding. I think Rob Holding gets in every team in this league nearly, and maybe with a transition period like he's having into this side at the moment. Centre halves, you talk about match fitness, is the perfect position not to need 5-10 games to get yourself up to speed and things, isn't it? Because half of it's played up here. So I'd argue that in this division, 3's, I think he's better than that personally.
So you would have given him a 4 even at this stage?
Yeah, I would, because I think that he's got calibre way beyond anyone else in our team, really. If you look,
you could balance it out, mate, to be fair, saying that Alfie's unproven at centre half in this level, at centre half. So
Yeah,
that gives you your 6 anyway. So it's definitely subjective, all this. And as I say, everybody's entitled to their opinion if they want to get it in comments as well. But I think that's a fair balance to represent. If you're only going one player per position, which we don't, obviously, this is not a perfect system. But obviously, you'll know who my next 2 are. So moving on to the left centre half, Anel gets in with a 4. Very good. I think if he'd still been playing alongside Harry Souttar, this would have been a 5 because he was outstanding during that time period. I think he showed weakness in his game and maybe a bit of. He's had some problems off the field as well, which we're aware of, with his dad and things like that as well. So he has been affected off the pitch as well. So Anel gets a 4. I think that's probably fair. What are you thinking to a 4, Paolo?
Mate, it's really difficult. It's really difficult because in this division,
would you say he's excellent? Because the last couple of games he has been excellent.
Yeah, Almanodzic at this level is a 5 personally.
Yeah, but I think you've got to think about this season as a whole. And there were a patch of about 6 games where he was absolutely not shocking, but he was poor. And I think you can't discount them. And look, again, it's subjective. Jack Robinson comes in with a 3. Now, I've been generous here. I think that's fair. Good to a solid option at left centre half.
He's definitely solid. He's definitely
solid, isn't he?
Yes, he is solid. He's solid. He's not. Again, he's no good on paper. He's no good on FIFA, is he? He's not going to get. He's not. Well,
it's FIFA cards 53.
That's one criticism I have. That's one criticism I have because I think that sometimes people believe that the game's played on paper and it isn't. And Robinson offers you more on the pitch than he probably gets credit for in terms of organisation. But we don't consider those things, do we? We don't consider communication and leadership, and we sort of go, "Oh, is he any good at dribbling? Has he got a ropey pass in him?" And we're always looking for the picking holes in his technique and things like that. But the best centre halves, they don't have to have brilliant technique.
I agree, mate.
Chiellini and people like that, one of the best centre halves of our generation. He can't pass a ball 25 yards. He can't. And technically, he's not a brilliant player, but he's Jack Robinson gets points for me on that on the score that he keeps things knitted together. Sometimes, yes, when people run at him, your heart's in your mouth because you don't know what's happening next, but. There's times where he's the one making, like even the other day when I was saying that he played really well, he's the one getting across and making a last minute block, putting the striker off, and he's the one making the tackle last ditch and things like that. And I know that we discussed this at length about his Premier League season. Again, he was one of the about 3 players that could walk off at the end of the season and say, I've done
everything I could,
done what I was paid to do here because. Yeah. And he was recognised for it. So I think he's a lot better than we give him credit for at this level. I think there is a prang in him, but most of the time he's pretty seamless most of the time. And yeah, when the ball's at his feet, he's not as silky as Anel, like striding past 1 or 2. But he's proved that a little bit more recently. He pings a long ball better than Anel, that's for sure. In my opinion, I've seen that quite a few times.
Yeah.
And he's been showing a bit more composure. And I know that we're all like, oh, he's turning it. He's turning like this, and everybody's like, oh God! But he's actually done really well with it. He's actually like kept the ball and been more composed and things like that. So I think he's again at this level. You could argue he's a good centre half at this level.
Okay, that gives us a 7 for our left centre halves. And they're slotting nicely along the back there. So moving on to left back then, Harrison Burrows. I think he's been a very good signing for us. Very good. I think he started okay. He had a dodgy first game, I would say. Not dodgy, but there was some concerns about him after the first game. And he has just grown and grown and grown into the position. And I think he should be starting most games. Look, I know it's a squad game and games come thick and fast. So he sometimes rotates with this man, Sam McCallum, who I give as a good to solid option at left back. But for me, Harrison Burrows should be our starter when all players are 100% fit, and I fully expect Burrows to start at left back on Monday night against Leeds. And because we are quite deep in terms of our squad depth at left back, no matter what you rate him, again, just to remind you of this doesn't mean Reece Norrington-Davies is poor. It's not a 1 for Reece. It's a +1 because he's the third option. So that gives us a total strength at left back of 8. 8 at left back, which completes our defence of Cooper at 8. Well, goalkeeper at 8. Right back 6. Right centre half at 6. Left centre half at 7. And left back at 8. Thoughts on that, Mr. Mountain?
Tell me a better left back in this division than Harrison Burrows.
Does that mean he's excellent just because he's better than a very average bunch?
At this level, Jim. I
agree with you, mate.
I think that you have been really, really conservative here in terms of. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I really do. Harrison Burrows, his contribution this season. Yeah, again, young player. Had the odd game where you've gone, oh gosh, he's not.
I think
you
might be right here. I think he might be right. Again, it's all opinions, isn't it? And I can be easily swayed.
His contributions in terms of his winners for us. His technical ability, final ball, is the best in our team with Gus.
Yeah,
for me, and if it depends how you judge him against. Because personally, I think he's been really, really good. I like the look of the Sunderland fullback, the left back for them, Sirkin. Yeah, I like the look of him. But in terms of his contribution to the cause this season, I think he's been excellent. He's played in a team that's had a lot of clean sheets, and I think that side of his game, from being a little bit worried right at the beginning, has really sharpened up in terms of his positioning, and I think he's learning. He's getting better, and I think at this level, Jim, I think he's an excellent player. I think he's a 5 in my opinion. I think you're being very. Oh, I don't know.
For me, if you're an excellent player at this level, you have a chance of stepping up to the Premier League. And do you think at this snapshot moment in time, he will be ready?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
I do. Okay. Because I think he's gone from there to there already this season, and I think he's certainly one that I would look at. And this is probably another video, probably one of a cluster of players who you can start to build the future around if we get promoted. I don't see us signing a left back if we go up
for 5 years.
No, I don't see us signing a left back if we go up. So I think that tells you everything. I think they think he's got the ability to go and be certainly.
I can certainly come round to that way of thinking. I do think he's left wanting sometimes positionally in terms of his defensive work. I think he does get beaten down that left-hand side on occasion, not every time. But I think he's the best defensive left back we've got, and I think he's certainly the best attacking left back that we've got. So he is certainly our starting left back for me. And I'm not going to argue if you want to give him a 5. No problem at all with that. No problem. At this stage, mate, I'm going to jump into some comments before we get too far behind. David Ledger says, get back to school. He posted that at 4:19 a.m. So I don't know whether you must be in a different time zone there, and it's posted it at your time zone, surely. Danny says, if you count Gilchrist as a centre-back, we have 2 good players for every position in the 4-2-3-1. And Kiefer Moore, plan B for the bench. Who's your strongest midfield, Jimmy, when all fit? Blaster and Sousa? Yes, Blaster and Sousa are at. But, disclaimer, the midfield I'm about to discuss, I have not included Blaster in this because we're not sure whether he's going to be back this season. So I'm talking about the squad depth till the end of the season. So I've had to omit Blaster, who is clearly a 5. And if you include him, when you see how strong our midfield is anyway, if you include Blaster, it's unfair on the rest of the league. But we'll get to that. Danny says, I think Peck is becoming undroppable. He's always missed when he's not on the pitch, similar to O'Hare and Hamer. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Matthew says, morning, Jimmy. Really hope we turn up Monday. All I'm hearing from Leeds channels is that we're going to smash them. They're not that good. I hope we can put them back in their boxes and keep them quiet for at least a week. Yeah, me too, pal. But it's going to be toughest game at season, isn't it? Really looking forward to it, though. Saw Connor mocking you, Jimmy. That was harsh but funny. Let's hope you can get him back after Monday. Yeah, I got clipped up It was more Jord. I thought he had a pop out, which we're fair game, aren't we? If we're going to laugh at that, it were a free hit for us on Monday with Leeds playing Sunderland, and you can say they got lucky all you like, but I thought they were pushing and pushing and pushing all game, and they're very, very good. No two ways about it. I was absolutely loving it when they were getting beat, and I was milking it for all it's worth. So to get clipped up is not unexpected, but it's part of the banter, isn't it? And that doesn't harm us necessarily. You can always spin it that Sunderland losing is great for us as well. So there's lots of good ways to look at that, pal. Would you put Gilchrist back in for this game? Because not sure on Clark defensively. I'll have a think about it before warm up, Matt. There's a lot to think about there. But Paul, obviously, what would your thoughts be on the right back to play Leeds?
Well, I've got a bit of trepidation about this formation he wants to play. I think if he does resort to a 5, which I'm keen for him not to do, I think Clark's your man. And I think in a 4, I think Gilchrist's your man, personally.
I agree.
I think it depends how Wilder wants to go about it. But yeah, if he does go 5, it'll be Clark. And if he goes to 4, I believe that Gilchrist is a better defensive right back.
Yeah, agreed. Will says, morning, Ramblers. Hello, early bird, says Skiddy. Kieran says, morning, Jimmy. Love to see a cheeky Ramble stream pop up on my morning break. Up the blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Luke says, morning, all. Morning, Luke. Joe says, hey, up Blades. I think we can match Leeds starting 11 if Wilder picks the right team. Rate concerned about their set pieces, though. There's more than the set pieces to be worried about in there. Zonny says, fingers crossed, we can do Leeds over for your sake, Jimmy, because Connor's got you on strings at the minute. Well, mate, swings and roundabouts, long way to go. What, 13 games left? Man mountain in the morning. My prayers have been answered, says Will. Yes.
Thank you, William. I appreciate
it. We all love to see it, don't we? Michael says, morning, boys. Enjoyed the content. Something to distract me from work is no bad thing. Up the Blades. And Mr. Paul Clark, who's trying to push a nickname of Clarky Blade, says, morning, fellas. What are we thinking about our priorities for next season? Let's assume we go up. Go on then, just to up all the Rambles, top man. What's your priority position then, Paul, to strengthen next year?
I bang on about this, and it's boring, but it's the 2 wide forwards. It's the 2 wide forwards. Again, I've said it 100 times. In the Premier League, you need a couple of flying machines on either side. If you look at all the teams in that league, you do. You need a couple of jets on either side, guys who can beat their man 1v1, get in behind, stretch the game. They're almost essential for any success in the Prem, and we need a couple of them. Could be our new signing, our AI signing, Caceres. He could be the one. We don't know whether we'll have Jez. I still think Jez has got a bit to go before we can consider him a starter in the Prem. But
agreed.
But no, I think they're the two bits where I think it changes the whole way the other team set up against you, and I think that we need those more than anything.
Yeah, and that's something Leeds United do have, to be honest. So yeah, it's something we're lacking, and they're not cheap either, unless you can do a really good job like we do with Burrows and Cooper. Sariki is great driving us forward, says Matt, and going forwards, but I think he's inexperienced and naive. Jimmy says Preston did okay against them. Need to get at them, get some strong tackling in. Need to be smart with the set pieces at both ends. Making the right subs at the right time may be crucial. 1-0 Blades. As the injury of Suter completely exposed Gilchrist, you could argue that, but who's to say Rob Holding wouldn't do a similar job in terms of talking him through the game as an inexperienced right back? I think a lot is made of that, Matt. I'm not so sure. There's so many legs to it. Alfie has played for Chelsea at centre back, not on a regular basis, David. To be fair, you're right. And in terms of a couple of games, but if he played there for half a season and done really well, then why is he not in the squad starting every week for us? Because he should be, but he's not a proven Premier League centre half, is he? He might have played the odd game there, and that's fair to say. But Michael says, and Ella's shown before that we need an upgrade if we get up. The Prem's moved on that far. We could bring in 8 players in the summer and still not survive. We need upgrades all over the pitch. This is to be honest, though, Michael. This is just about how strong are we for this division to get us to the end of the season right now. I appreciate that's going to be another conversation in terms of the rebuild in the summer, continuing the rebuild, if you like. Sorry, but I would replace Robinson for Holding. You've got someone who played for Arsenal in the Champions League and he looked good versus Luton. No-brainer. Yeah, I would too. I've no qualms with that. Mark says, morning, Jimmy and Paul. If the Blades and Leeds get promoted, in my opinion, the Blades are more equipped the way we play to succeed in the Prem than Leeds? We might find out, mate. 5 Burrows for me, says Will. Could even have seen a 4 for McCallum. Interesting. Jackie Longthrow makes me nervous, just like a small person at a urinal. Kicks on us tippy toes, says David. Wow. Jimmy in the Mountain, are you able to bring yourself to support the Pigs on Friday in their match away to Burnley? If they're able to get anything from that match, it should help the Blades. I'll be watching that. I'll be doing a Rivals watch along on Behind the Ramble, Michael. I really don't know how to react to any of it, to be honest. So we'll see. What can you bring yourself to cheer for him, Mr. Mountain?
Yeah, I'll be happy if Wednesday beat him on Friday night. They're like, we need to get this into our heads. Wednesday are nowhere near us at all. And if they can help us by beating Burnley, then why would I bother? I do not support Sheffield Wednesday in any circumstances, but what I do advocate is them taking points off our rivals. That's fine for me.
Okay. I play 3-5-2 against Leeds, says Danny. Attack the game, holding with Anel and Robbo at centre back, Burrows and Sariki at wing back, Sousa, Peck and Hamer in midfield, and O'Hare and Campbell up top. We can't give Leeds out. Up the Ramble, up the Blades. Ev says, morning fellas, how are you both? Man Mountain were all right till he saw that 3-5-2 shout, and he's not anymore. A draw for the what? The Piggies will suffice. Up the Blades. Sorry, I couldn't see it on this one. I had to look down at what it showed on screen. Yes, it will suffice, to be honest. Bring Diaz and Raksaki on if we slip back to our usual formation, says Danny. Zonny says, I agree with Mounty. I'm the Mounty Towers. I forgot about that one. I'll keep trying to bring that back. Definitely need to speed the speedboats out wide if we go up, and at least one better centre back. And we're going to need a new right back as well. Steve Holmes says, Alfie Gilchrist should be starting at right back. He's a solid 5. Do you mean solid 5 out of 10, Steve? Because we're doing this out of 5, aren't we? So I wouldn't say he's excellent at right back, but I'm sure you probably mean he's a very good option as a right back. Pete says, listening to the Ramble at snap time. Brilliant, lads. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Nice to see you, Pete. Right, okay. Let's get back into this then. So we've done our defence, and just to remind everybody, that's how we line up currently in terms of squad depth. We are a 6 at right back, 6 at right centre half, 7 at left centre half, and 8 at left back. Could be pushed to a 9 because Harrison Burrows can be considered a 5, I think. Into centre midfield, and this is where we start cheating, I think. Vinny Sousa is a 5. He's absolutely excellent at this level. This is for the left centre back position, centre midfielder position. Vinny Sousa is a cheat code at this level. I know he hasn't necessarily been on tip-top form, but we have seen him get to the levels that we know he can make. And anybody in this league takes Vinny Sousa in the starting 11. For me, he's a 5. And he is backed up in that left centre midfield role by Hamza Chowdhury, who I think is a 4, a very good option at this level. We've seen flashes of it. They don't work great together at the moment. And I'm not sure whether we will find a system where they look good together as a pairing. But I think as individual options, for 2 lads who do a very similar job as each other, I think they're great options in terms of ball recoveries, controlling the middle, giving it easy after winning the ball. I mark us as a 9 in the left centre midfield, Mr. Mountain. Any gripes on those scores at all? Do you think they're fair?
It's fair enough, yeah. I think, like you say, at the level, Chowdhury's a good option. I still think Oldham might have a bigger influence on our season than Chowdhury.
Okay.
Based on the last few games, I think, like you say, Chowdhury is excellent to come on for the last half an hour, shore things up. He does it like we'll have to wait and see if it works with Vinny. I think he'll still play in there sometimes, him and Vinny together. It hasn't really worked for the fans so far. So I think Holding's going to be. If he's a 4, I think Holding's got to be better than a 3 personally.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm going on is I could have gone Holding unproven because technically he is, or you could argue that he is.
It's the most. Or you could argue he's the most proven, Jim.
Yes, you could, but obviously it's so unique the fact that he's sort of been an outlier for 2 years. Nobody's seen anything of him for 2 years, so it's like coming out of retirement almost, or coming back from a really bad injury. So it's a really difficult one to grade, and I'm more than happy to give Holding a 4. I just think people could lean into the fact that, well, you don't like Robinson, do you? So that's always going to be a 4 for Holding. But I genuinely think Holding will be, I think he's up there with an L as our best defender. Absolutely right, he is. So this is where it gets interesting in centre midfield as well. We're going right centre midfielder now. And remember, we're not including Ollie Arblaster in this team. Ollie Arblaster would be a definite 5 in this team. Starts alongside Vinny Souza. I think he's done more than enough in his half season in the Premier League and the short time he had until he got injured to show that he is a top player, particularly at this level. But coming in instead, alongside Vinny Souza, is Sidney Peck, who gets a 4 as a very good option. I could be tempted to go 5, but I think that would be, I'd be going on sentiment rather than actual what I feel is ability at this moment and consistency, you have to say, in terms of his overall game. But Sidney Peck, talk about a leader on the field. He has stepped up in the time that we needed him. And for so long in this position, we had just this man and this man behind him. Tom Davies is a good, solid option, playing back-to-back 90 minutes, trying to get us through games, one of them being subbed off when they were absolutely dead on their feet, for Harrison Burrows having to be drafted into midfield. And now we've got this array of options in the centre, hopefully if Ollie Arblaster makes his way back as well. So at the moment, we've got Sidney Peck as a 4, Tom Davies as a 3, and I've chucked Jamie Shackleton in there. Where's he gone? Where has anybody seen Jamie Shackleton? But when fit, I think his best position for us is as a centre midfielder. That gives us an 8 overall. But you've also got to think, if Ollie Arblaster is in this side, then he's in alongside Sidney Peck. So that's a 5 and a 4, and you'll get Tom Davies as your +1. That's a 10. So that's a 10 in centre midfield. So at the moment, the way it lines up without Ollie Arblaster, it's an 8 in central midfield. Thoughts on that, Mr. Mountain? Did you follow me there? I know there's a few little bits to take into consideration.
Yeah, I think Davies has to be a 3 at this point. I think there's still a player there, a player that we like and has shown flashes. But like you say, at this point, it's probably a 3. I think you're right with Peck. I think he's still got a bit to do in terms of consistency, whether that's just because of burnout. I mean, he's been our best player on the pitch on more than one occasion this season. So yeah, I think he's got a ceiling above where he is right now, and I'm intrigued to see how he gets on the rest of the season, because again, it's going to be a big dozen matches for him, I think, because if he wants to be part of this team next season, they're big, aren't they? Because you've got to be, if we're going to go up, which we could do, touch wood, turn around, touch the ground, we might as well dream that he can go and bridge the gap, and he can go and be a Premier League footballer like we saw from Blaster last season. I think that he can be, and it's good competition in there, and we own them. We own them all other than Chowdhury, don't we?
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. So moving on to the right side of midfield now, something that you've talked about, Paul, and I think this might cause a bit of controversy, but this is just my opinion. It's a bit of fun. You can have your say as well. And I don't just mean my mountain. Get them in the comments if you disagree completely. Raksaki, I'm going with a good to solid option at 3. I don't think you can. I think we've seen flashes of him being very good. Well, I'm going to say bordering on excellent, but he had an excellent game against Luton. I haven't really seen it since, if I'm honest. I think the inconsistency is what keeps him at a 3. And it doesn't mean he hasn't got the ability to certainly be a 4. I think he probably has, but this is why he's with us. This is why he's on loan in the Championship, trying to get to those levels that a lot of people believe he can reach. And behind him, and I'm tin hat on now, unproven, Andre Brooks, 2 on the right wing. So this doesn't mean he's a 2 out of 5 as a player. This means he's a 2 because I haven't seen him reach close to his potential yet. I think we saw it in flashes last season, where he was in the centre of midfield. He's now on the right wing, where I think he's had a couple of really good games, and that's about it. And I've seen him have a couple of really poor games. So for me, that works out as a total of 5. Good to solid, because obviously if you're doubling all your scores, you could argue that that's quite an average score, and I think that's fair. 5 is, I think, where we're weakest at the moment on the right wing. Mr. Mountain, any thoughts? Shake of the head. What would you have scored him then, out of interest?
4 and 3.
Really, that strong?
Yeah, that's strong because again, at this level, Jim, I think Raksaki is starting in 22 out of the 24 teams in this division. I think he offers us something that we haven't got elsewhere on the pitch. Even if he has a bad game, I think he attracts defenders to him. I think 1v1 he's the man that can run past people. I still think he's a goal threat.
I think he's an impact sub. I think he's an impact sub at this moment.
I think you're right on the inconsistency, but at this level, he is a 4 out of 5, in my opinion. I think Brooks, you've done a bit dirty there because I think he offers us something. He's done really well at times.
Has he proven himself as a solid right winger at this level? Has he proven himself this season?
I think he's at least a 3, Jim.
Has he proved? No, this is where the scoring system shows you what you've really got. It's not a case of I think he's a 2 because I don't think he's a 2. I think he's in the same cluster as Peck, Arblaster, Sariki in terms of the potential that he's got. I love Andre Brooks and I want him to do well. I'd love him to be starting over Raksaki, to be honest. I'm talking about the way our scoring system works, which you've seen, which just to remind everybody else, if you're unproven or average, I'm not saying he's average because he's not, but he's unproven to me. Has he proved to you there is a really good, solid option at right wing this season? And if not, that's why we're not having a consistent right winger line up for us. And I think it's a weakness. We've seen Bertrand Diaz there for the last couple of games, which none of us think really works. But Wilder obviously thinks there's a problem there. We have to squeeze in better players in positions that they're unfamiliar with, square pegs in round holes. I don't think he's convinced by Raksaki, and he's certainly not convinced by Brooks.
You're talking about a proven goal scorer at the level in Bertrand Diaz.
Yeah, as a left forward.
Right, okay, but he scored goals for us, won us matches on that right-hand side already. So, and you've got Gus Hamer who's your best player.
Plural.
You got Gus Hamer who's your best player, who from that left-hand side has done the most goal contributions in the old team, and fits in with, if you want to play O'Hare there. I think that,
which is a problem for us, isn't it? And that's, it's a good problem to have. But we are unbalanced in terms of strength on each side.
But Brooks has played games, even this season, where he's been our best player. And he has.
When?
Well, what about, he's cut inside the other day and smashed one in from about 22 yards, hasn't he, on his left foot, and basically sealed the money for us. He's had games where he's terrorised defenders, and he's had games where he's been ineffective as well. So I think 2 is harsh. I don't think there's anyone who looks at our team, right, from outside looking in. So if someone who don't watch us every week and they said, "Oh, give Brooks a score out of 5," and they went 2, we'd be like, what?
Yeah, but that's where you have to. That's where you have to bring you the context in, don't you? Because he's getting a 2 because he's unproven. It could be the same with anybody. You could be say, if you'd brought Illiman and Dye in his first season when he were in with Gibbs White and he'd only played 5 games, you might give him a 2 for being unproven. But then you look back at it and you think he's a 6 out of 5. Never mind all else. So
you could make the same argument for loads of them, mate. We could put like saying like an average. You put average and unproven in the same.
Average or unproven.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Average or unproven. So there's a double criteria there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think that. I just think that anyone looking outside him wouldn't tell you that Brooks is a 2 out of 5, and the reason is because he's got a lot better. He's much better than that at this level. If you said I'll rate him out of 5 through, people will go 3. Some people might even go 4.
So if you take away the numbers, then the ratings, and you say, would you say he's a good right winger at this level, or would you say he's unproven? What would you say?
I'd say he's definitely better than average. He's definitely better than average. So it's your criteria.
Order.
You've created this little monster, haven't you? But I think he's. I think
in it, and maybe that's something I need to look at in terms of.
Argues unproven. I say he's better than average. So that means that criteria is a bit shady.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you can argue, Jim, that loads of them are unproven. You could some people might even argue that Burrows is still at the level because he only played 20 matches. Is still unproven. You could argue that Sariki's definitely unproven. You could argue that Gilchrist and there's so many in there.
Yeah, you could.
You can say Rob Holding, who could be the best centre half in the division when he's fit, could be unproven because he's only played 5 games. So I think it's a really difficult scenario. But I think on that right hand side, lots and lots of teams in this division, if you said to him, right, because 5 is poor in it. 5 is the weakest. You've said it's the weakest position in our team, but actually you're saying, oh well, we've had to put Brereton Diaz there. We put Diaz in because he's a proven goal scorer at the level. He's
but it's not balanced, is it? It's not balanced.
No, but he's done well there. You know, the finish the other night and the being on the end of things on the right.
He has done well, but he's a good player. Like Gus Hamer has adapted to a left wing role or a left forward role. He's not a left forward, is he?
No, but you've got to facilitate O'Hare and Hamer playing in this team because of what they bring to the table. And if that means you keep Brereton Diaz in the team and you move him out there, he scored a couple of goals for us, and one of them being a winner. So he's already proven he can do it.
I get it, mate. But if we'd have brought and the ship has sailed because he's now playing regularly in Premier League. But there was some discussion about David Brooks at the beginning of the season. If we'd have brought David Brooks in to play on that right hand side, this conversation is moot because he makes a significant impact at this level. He's proven in the division. We know what he did for Southampton last year. He's now doing it in the Premier League. So, you know, it's as I said, the ship's sailed. But it's not an in and ahhing. It's David Brooks is a real quality option at this level. And there's no we're going to have to put Brereton Diaz across there to slot in. No, Brereton Diaz comes off the bench on 60 minutes for Gus Hamer or Callum O'Hare, and Gus slots into the 10. And we've got an unbelievable forward line coming on fresh rather than Brereton Diaz, because he's a better player than Raksaki and Brooks, arguably, but certainly proven at the level. We'll put him on right wing where he's not really played, but he's a really good player. So I get what you're saying. And I think we agree with each other to a degree, because what you're doing is Wilder's making it fit with the quality that we've got. But for me, when we're talking about players for specific positions, which is partly what this is about as well, I don't think Raksaki and Brooks are anyway. I think they're our weakest point in the team, if you like, as legit options. So
they played. We all called for Raksaki to play, didn't we? Because of the imbalance of the 3 forwards the week before.
And I hope he continues to prove me wrong. Against
Middlesbrough, he was a massive threat. He was a huge threat. He offers us big threat out there. He offers us a different option, and I think Brooks off the bench can offer us an awful lot. And I think they're both slightly better than what you've graded him. That's my opinion.
Okay, mate. No, that's what it's about, isn't it? And I love that you can come on and give me some great arguments against what I'm saying. I've already changed my mind on a couple of my own ratings because of what you've argued back. So that's fair, mate. Michael says Wednesday are having their best season in a decade, but remain 25 points behind the Blades. Surely not 3-5-2, says Danny, when we've not used it successfully so far this season. 2-1 Blades. Osblade says, up the Ramble, up the Blades. Would love that. Zonny says 3-5-2 didn't work against Leeds last time we played them. They doubled up on us out wide and tore us to bits on the wings. Yeah, I think they would as well, to be honest. Morning, chap, says Rich. We need to play aggressive and get in their faces and back them up, put a few of their players in row Z early. Jack Robinson, step forward. I think some of the Blades forget how good Gilchrist was defensively in the first half of the season. I agree. I don't think you'll get many arguments from us too, pal. Looking back at the games, hard away games, including Pompey, Norwich, etc., he was exceptional. I agree. Michael says, I've no problem wanting to win on Friday wanting them to win on Friday until the game kicks off, and then I just can't do it. Our destiny's in our own hands. Come on, Burnley. Sean says, in home games that are a bit flat and we need a ball knock to get the crowd going, Pecker's done that at times, +1 just for that. Yeah, I think I've talked about it, and maybe it's a bit of a premature shout, but I think he's potential at least, but he's captain material. I think he gets what we're about. I know he's not a Sheffield boy. You don't have to be, do you? Obviously, that's a little bit antiquated for me even to mention, but I think he's he's everything that the club's about. And he's one of those that Paul's talking about. If we do go up, he's part of that nucleus that you can build your club around, not just your team, your club around players like Sidney Peck. He's a 3 at best, says Jez. Interesting. Davis is the better player for sure. Switch the ratings. Well, this is no, I know you're laughing, but that's maybe we're just riding the wave of a couple of good games from City and the inconsistency that you get with young players. That might be right. Tom Davis has had a really good spell as well when he were getting regular football. Unfortunate to get injured. I'll pick up a little niggle when he did. Davies has been better, but not sure if he can get back to that, says Danny. Peck's been better this season and has a higher ceiling as he's still young. Michael says, I believe the Leeds manager, Daniel Farke, received a yellow card in their victory over Sunderland, which gets him a touchline ban. That's right, he does. He's not in the dugout. Jonathan says, is there a shout we could play Chowdhury at right back? There is. There is. I saw Leicester that they were playing him there at times, but it's one player for one position, Jonathan. We can't. I've got to stick to the rules. I don't know who made these outlandish rules, but I've got to stick to
crazy that criteria. Crazy.
I love it, mate. I love it. Alan says, morning both. Jimmy, you're definitely a glass half empty guy. Sent you some very low scores. You sent some very low scores, pal. Mounty, like me, is glass half full guy. Up the Blades. Fair play, Alan. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe I'm overly cautious. Sligo Blade says, I think Alfie has been hard done by. Yes, Clark is probably slightly better going forward, but Alfie gets what it means to be a Blade. I don't think people always count that as much as they should, but I really love that aspect.
Not like Jack Robinson. Yeah, all right.
Moving on, Raksaki says, Raksaki will never be a regular in the team. He's always going to blow hot and cold. He's a 2.5 for me, says Mike. No halves. No halves. That just overcomplicates
Michael,
things.
Come on.
Ian agrees with Mr. Mountain. Jimmy's very harsh with ratings, unless your name is Archer, who gets a 6. Right. So moving into the number 10, the famous number 10, attacking midfield, the position that everybody wants to play, really. If you're not going to be a number 9, you want to be a number 10 where you can just go wherever you want and do whatever you can. And
as
maybe...
the kids would say, Cam.
Yeah, as the kids would say,
Cam.
I'm playing Cam. Okay, can I play Cam? And speak, yeah. So Cam for... I'm rethinking all my ratings now because you've thrown me a spanner in works with Harrison Burrows. I feel like I've done Harrison Burrows dirty when I'm giving Callum O'Hare a 5. And maybe it is just on like the last half dozen games from Cal and showing and proving the impact that he can give to us, where I'm happy with a 5 for Callum O'Hare. I'm not necessarily convinced. I've said Cooper there. You can
change
tell
his name.
Little bit of an editing error there, but you know, it's that's what you can expect from the Ramble.
Did you spot my deliberate mistake? You should have
exactly
said
right. Well said. Well
said. Sure everyone switched on to this. Yeah.
I think that's what happens when you're editing at 10 o'clock at night. So I think Callum O'Hare is worthy of a 5 due to the impact that he gives. He's given us this season. Slow burner to get going with us, undoubtedly. I could have entertained a 3 if we were talking at the beginning of the season. I think he's gradually grown into a very good. And now I think he's one of those players that I said this on a stream the other day where they're undroppable. I said that about one of the first names on team sheet. I think I said about Sidney Peck, and he were dropped obviously to face Luton, as was Callum O'Hare. But coming on, he shows his impact. I think he's one of our most important players. Callum O'Hare gets a 5, or Callum O'Cooper, as he's now going to be known. But what's your thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, well, I think like, shout out to Mr. V as well for this one. He spotted this early, but he's a bit of an essential cog in facilitating a good performance for Sheffield United. And personally, to play in that position, I would like a bit more in terms of output, in terms of numbers and things like that, because I think that these sorts of players do get judged on that a little bit. And I think he's always reluctant to pull the trigger for me, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I always think he needs an extra touch, or he just holds onto the ball just a touch too long. And I think he's had 4 or 5 opportunities this season where he's just been a bit too slow to pull the trigger.
Thinking could we be braver?
Well, yeah. I mean, I if it were me and I was his coach, I'd have him in front of that goal, taking the ball and getting him to finish, and because I think his game intelligence is really, really high. If not the best in our team.
Reads it so well, doesn't he? Reads the game.
He does, and his energy levels. He's the type of player who needs 10 games to get up to the level he's at now, because it's so intense on his body and his engine, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I just wish if he'd scored a few more goals, he'd be playing for God knows who. That's what I think, because I think if he can learn that type part of his game and improve that part of his game, and he's got lots of guys who can finish in that team that we have now. So it's similar to Raksaki. If he started coming in on his left and started bending him in the top corner, which I'm sure he can, then again, his ceiling's unbelievably high because of the attributes he's got that he brings to the table. So I think that, I'd just like to see a bit more from him that thing. And some might argue he's a 4 because of that, but I think personally he's essential for us to play well, and therefore I think 5 can be justified. Yeah.
So backing him up in the 10, obviously this is where we would shift Gus inside or whatever, but it's one player per position. So Wilder has sort of siphoned this man in to the 10, and I'm not sure it's worked. Ryan Brewster, and he gets a 2 because I think he's average, and I think that's not going to go down well. And my apologies to the gatekeeper, but I think this leaves us with a total of 7 in the 10. It leaves us looking like this at the moment in terms of the squad depth overall. Thoughts on Ryan Brewster getting a 2, mate, for being average rather than unproven? Can't argue, can you?
Well, oh God, yeah, no, can't argue at all. He's not a 10. Don't see him as a 10. Don't know what to do with him. Ran out of ideas.
We're trying to siphon him in, aren't we, in certain play, and it's just make it work for him, and it's.
See, I've been saying this for 3 years, but I think that I do see a value in him being on our substitutes bench, because I think he has come on at times and brought energy to the team.
Yes, he has. Yes,
and brought an enthusiasm and shown flashes of bits and bobs he can do. But yeah, for me, to start him, I just can't.
Don't worry, mate. It picks up from here. So out on the left-hand side, we are stocked with two great players. Gus Hamer, arguably the best player in the league. I can certainly have that conversation with any team about any player. Best outfield player behind Michael Cooper. No, I'm only kidding. But yes, a brilliant technical wizard. Gus, game changer for us. Absolutely desperate for him to be fit for Monday. Fingers crossed, keeping everything crossed that he is fit for Monday. So Gus Hamer starts in any side. And he's backed up by a very good Ben Brereton Diaz. I think you could argue there is a 5. I don't think we've necessarily seen that yet since his return, although his outputs have been very good. I think he's had a couple of occasions where you think actually he was quite ineffectual against Portsmouth and a couple of other games where he hasn't been at his best. But overall, I think he's a very good option on that left-hand side, which is his natural position, coming in off the left. It gives us a 9 on the left wing. Excellent. And that makes us look a little bit stronger. And I think this is a fair reflection on what I feel our balance is at the moment, mate. I don't know whether you agree, but our left is looking a lot stronger than the right. We're starting to use left-sided players over on the right to compensate. Thoughts on how the team's looking going into the final position?
Yeah, he's going to win us points at this level. He's guaranteed goals. Brereton Diaz, that is. I mean, I don't need to say anything about Hamer. We've waxed lyrical about him all season. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying about the best in the league in terms of overall contribution. He's fantastic. I think Brereton Diaz will win us points this season. And yeah, he does blow out on cold because I think he's more reliant on service. So I think Gus goes out and makes it happen. I think that Brereton Diaz,
yes,
that finish the other night was absolutely top quality. Like, if you say, right, you're going to send someone through on goal, I mean, the 2 touches, then the cool finish was just terrific. At this level, there's very few who wouldn't take Brereton Diaz in their team, and he's a massive goal threat. So, but again, I think he relies on slide rule balls in behind defences. I think he relies on other people facilitating it, where you've got players like Gus who do it on their own. So
I think his movement is exceptional, though. I think he relies on teammates for he's not like an individual brilliance kind of guy, but he will anticipate where the ball's going to be, and he'll play on the shoulder of the last man, or like we saw for the goal that Cannon set him up for against Derby. Were it Derby? Yeah, where he knew that ball was coming across the 6-yard box, so he were there at the far stick. He nearly did it again the other day against Luton, and obviously just missed. But I think that is what sets him apart in terms of his finishing. It's up there, like you say. A lot of it, defenders, it's all about up there and reading the game in front of you. But for a striker, it's a great attribute to have. We've seen it. Billy Sharp used to do it all the time. Wasn't the quickest striker, never was. But in the box, it was all. He could peel off his man because he knew where the ball was coming. and that's what sets him apart, I think.
I think Diaz gives us a bit of balance, like we said, and we spoke about balance the other day when Raksaki's on the field, because I was saying, I said it to you, didn't I? The only criticism of the performance against Middlesbrough for me at times was that when we're playing pretty in wide areas, one touch, confidence, all the things that we saw, I looked in the box and I said this to you, didn't I? And there'd be one of them stood there going like that, and I'm going, there should be four running in.
That's right. Frustrating.
And that's what Diaz gives us. I think we've got a load of players who, when we're trying to play quick and go past people, they hang on the edge because they all want the one touch finished. Hamer does it, O'Hare does it, Raksaki does it. I think they're sometimes reluctant to go and gamble, but you get that with Diaz, where he's always on the move in the box, and that was I spoke about that when we were in the Premier League. He was always the first to react. He was the one moving in the box. You know, they teach you that from a young age. Don't be stood still in the box because you're getting nothing.
Absolutely.
I think he relies on that principle a lot, and he's guaranteed goals at the level. So you could argue he's a 5, because although he hasn't hit the straps fully for us yet, I mean, if he'd have started the season, he'd be looking at 15 goals minimum.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. Speaking of goal scorers, moving into our attacking position, sole striker in this formation, Tom Cannon gets a 4. And this may be controversial to some. I think he's a very good striker at this level. You could argue he's unproven for Sheffield United. I don't think he's unproven at the level, and that would be my counter. I think he's already got 10, 11 goals in this league this season, yet to score for Sheffield United in his, 3 appearances for us. It's not the be-all, end-all, I don't think, in terms of, as long as we're winning games, which we have been doing, I think he's a huge asset to the club, to the team. I think he's been a brilliant signing for us. You could argue, and there's not a strong argument against, really, that we didn't necessarily need a striker. But I think with Campbell and Moore out injured at the same time, there was an element of we can't just rely on Ryan Brewster and Ryan O'Neill rotating if this is going to be a regular thing. But I think there's a strong argument between who should be starting. Obviously, Tom Cannon was last seen wearing a protective boot. So it's likely that on Monday night, this man starts. Tyrese Campbell, who has been a very good signing for us. I could be argued for a 5. Could be argued, because I don't know what else he could do, really, I suppose, to get up there for a 5. And when you think about it in terms of how we've graded everybody else, maybe I've not given him enough credit here, because the impact he's had, I think it's somewhat like a goal every 148 minutes, which is incredible. It's a goal every game and a half, nearly 2 goals every 3 games, whichever way you want to dress it up. So they are a combined 8, but obviously we also have Kiefer Moore to come back. I don't think Kiefer Moore's a +1. I could give him a 3 or a 4 himself. I know he was carrying an injury, and that affected his performances, which has unfortunately affected a lot of people's opinions on him. So let's give him a chance when he comes back to fitness, see where he can be. I think he's certainly going to be a really strong impact player for us from the bench, like he was for Ipswich in their promotion season. But as he's a 3rd option, he only gets a +1, and that leaves us with a 9 strength at striker. And that's how our team finishes up. Our team finishes up with an 8 at goalkeeper, 6 at right back, 6 at right centre half, 7 at left centre half, 8 at left back, 9 and an 8 in centre midfield, 5 on the right, 9 on the left, a 7 in the 10, and 9 up top for strikers. Paul, do you think that's a fair assessment of where the squad is? I know we've disagreed on a couple. You could certainly bump up the right wing another couple of points, thinking that Raksaki and Brooks are worth a higher score. But I think that's a fair reflection on where we are. If everybody plays in their best position, I think that's where the strength and the weaknesses lie, personally. Any thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think I think it's hard, isn't it? Because you're looking at positions where, you know, Robinson and Anel have played together all year, and we've got them both on the centre half position. You see, I think that's it's hard to put it in, isn't it? In that sense, I think that the number 10 position with O'Hare and potentially Hamer in that position as most of the season is better than 7 because of that.
Which is why it's a depth conversation more than all else.
Yeah. No, I do get that, and I think that there's definitely going to be there's going to be a spot for Brereton Diaz alongside the two. So it is tricky. But no, I think it's fair enough. I think the right wing, I think you've undercooked him a little bit.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think Tyrese this season has proved is outstanding at the level, and minus the injuries, would be on a lot more goals, in my opinion. If we'd had our strongest team to play with him and to feed him, I think he's been superb. Other than that, not squaring it for Diaz the other night, I think he's been almost seamless.
He's been great, hasn't he? He has been great.
A little bit of a nudge ahead of the other two, but
maybe so.
Yeah, I think Cannon's fair enough based on what he's done this season. Not necessarily for us, but that's fine. I think playing one up front as we do, I think you do need to adapt, and people need to learn to play with each other. I don't think anyone would have thought Campbell would develop the relationship he has with some of the others, and that's taken a bit of time, hasn't it, to sort that out. So, don't know. Yeah. I think it's fair enough, Jim. I think it looks rosy, and I think that we might rely on that right wing at times. This in the final Baker's dozen. I think we'll. I think you might see a little bit more from the boys on the right.
I hope so, mate. I really hope so. Andrew says, my mouse went crazy then. Andrew says, morning, Jimmy. Des Racky's like Nanny. One fantastic game in every 5, frustrating but unplayable on his day. Just join the page. Oh, thank you, pal. How do I join the WhatsApp group? You should have received an email automatically, but if not, I'll message you after the stream and drop you the link, pal. Thank you for your support. Callum Ware deserves a 5 just for his work rate, says Zonny. Paul says Cooper could probably play number 10 too. Yes, he could. He could. That's fair. O'Hare was class first time I've seen him live against Borough. Wins so many balls in and around their box. Agree. Ev says, seen some Blades question Wilder's tactical knowledge with the Premier League. If we go up and can't say I disagree. A significant amount of games this season, we've relied on moments of magic from quality players. That won't work in the Prem, unfortunately. Well, I'll worry about that when we get there. Ian's clearly just seen my Brewster assessment. Apologies, pal. It's nothing personal, you know that. I was going to ask if O'Hare gets in Ireland squad then see his English, says Paul. So no, I probably don't make it into the Ireland setup. Michael says, was O'Hare poor at the start of the season, or was it just us who didn't understand his game? He's a proper ratter who facilitates our attacking players. Certainly can be better in and around the box. It's a reasonable argument to make. I don't think he was playing anywhere near to as well as he is at the moment. And whether that's the players around him or himself, or probably a bit of both, is a reasonable thing to say. O'Hare is a ratter, but I've never heard that before. What's a ratter? Don't know. But he's got quick feet, close control, and pretty good at his flicks and short passing. He'll be even better in the Prem, says Danny. What we missed last season, can take the ball under pressure, invaluable. Does anyone else think BBD will be good in the cam, playing off 2 strikers? In a cam 2, playing off off 1 striker, sorry. Think he'd be better as 2 10s. Brereton Diaz playing left-hand side of the 10s.
I could see Brereton Diaz as the second forward in a 2 and a 1 behind. I don't think he's got. If it's a cam position, it's about creativity, range of passing.
Need to be able to have quick feet, beat your man and stuff like that.
So that's not him.
Shift it out of your feet quickly and stuff.
Yeah.
Tom Cannon's an asset, but he's a 2 unproven for the Blades. I think I've gone with the level, Dave, to be honest. I've gone with the level, and I think he's proven at the level personally. Cole said, and that's, again, it's about opinions, pal. Cole says, morning, Jimmy. What are we expecting on Monday then? I've come to not have any expectations of how we'll play because we're so mixed in performances at the minute. I think against Leeds, we have to start strong with us being at home and the advantage of it being at the lane. Squeaky bum time for us Blades now, Jimbo, but excited and optimistic as always. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, up behind the Ramble, like and subscribe. What's your thoughts on Monday, pal? What do you think? How do you think we're going to get on?
We've got to turn up. I don't think they. I think they got away with it. I know they applied a lot of pressure. Sunderland had a game plan. Watching that game, and I thought they were executing it perfectly. I think from their point of view, Leeds have not opened them up once, so they haven't created a clear-cut chance in that entire game. They've relied on a couple of decent balls in, and Rothwell. I have to say, I've always liked Rothwell. I liked him before.
Great impact, wasn't it?
I thought he was when he went to Bournemouth. I thought that's about right because I think he'd be good for them. So I think he's coming back into some form, and he proved his quality in in those moments. But from a defensive point of view for Sunderland, they've batted away that kind of attack all game. And then they've had two, for me, big lapses, balls into the box that should have been better. Goalie start position were poor. I think that...
Keeper.
Yeah, Patterson. He was. I think he's a good keeper.
I do, but
both of those goals, I'm going.
What are you doing?
Sick as a dog there, because I think that his positioning is not good enough, and fair play, they've got that belief, and the Struck, the guy that came on, he did it against. He's decent in the air, and they haven't tracked him, and I just think it was unfortunate for them, because I thought they contained it, and that's part of their plan. At half time, Sunderland have had 3 or 4 really good chances to score, and they haven't. So I think that there's a blueprint there that I think is dangerous, because if Wilder reads into it, he'll play his 5 at the back, and he'll want to absorb pressure, and he'll probably think that we'll save a couple of our hitters, probably Raksaki and Diaz, for the last 25 minutes, and hope we can nick a winner. I personally hope we go for it like we did with Middlesbrough. I don't know if he'll have whether he'll want that to happen, because he might believe we'll get opened up. But I think that...
Do you think Wilder goes 3 at the back then? Even though you don't want him to?
I don't want him to. I think it's an option. I think the way Wilder plays is he likes to contain the game for an hour. He wants us in it with half an hour to go. And I think that'll dictate his tactics potentially, because that's what he's been doing for years. I'd like him to go for it and then change to a 5 later if we need to see something out with the last 15 minutes or whatever, and shore it up that way. That's fine. I mean, I've no problem with Wilder making formation changes, tactical changes to suit the game. But I think if we start like we did last time, we could end up with the same idea that we've let ourselves down, because we haven't given ourselves enough options moving forward. And the players have got to believe it as well. That's the other point. The players have got to believe they can go and win the game, first of all, and they should do. They've won 22 matches, 67% of their games this season. So they should be believing.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. They should be believing that they can go and win this game. But it's just if he I don't want to say that now. If he messes about with that formation, I think the last time he did that, I think you could see it. The players were like, "Hang on a minute, we've won all these games. Now we're trying to counteract their threat, and we're not thinking about our own threat." So I believe they've got a belief they can go and win it. And for me, if they go out there and they die on the sword, we said that before. I'd much rather do that. I'd much rather go and create chances and work hard and do it that way, rather than try and kill the game for an hour and a bit and try and nick something, because I think we should be confident to go toe-to-toe.
Nice one, mate. Nice one. I hope so too. Cannon needs to be played in and around the box. He doesn't need to be tracking back in our box. It's just not his game, says Sligo Blade. Don't see how he can give Cannon a 4, Jimmy. I see his record in the division and I'm right behind him, but for the rest of the season is a 3 for me. There you go. It's only joking, pal. I don't see him as a 10 either. I know some people see Brewster as a striker. I think Hamer right, BBD left, O'Hare in the 10. I'll go Campbell up front. Just the fact I think he's a little in front of Cannon, Peck and Souza, with Hamza and Davis rotating, Holding, Anel and Burrows and Sariki from Ricky. Gilchrist will be used as a rotation centre-back from now on, I think. I don't think we'll see him, like Paul says. I think he's probably seen as the 4th choice centre-back and maybe even the 2nd choice right-back, but because of the loan situation, you can always bring Sariki on the bench instead. So he's not going to get in the squad. Good morning, lads. Got my tickets for Leeds. Tight game, says Pixie, end-to-end, but I think we might edge it 2-1. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, up behind the Ramble, up the full-time Ramble. Patterson looks like a rugby player in goal to me, says Paul. Ian says Patterson looks as if he's carrying a bit too much timber to me. Zonny says if Millwall can beat Leeds going for it, we can. Best form of defending is attacking while we have the ball in their half. They can't score. Agreed. And Drone Assist says be good to see what the scores will be for the Leeds squad. Yeah, it would. I'm not going to be doing that. Don't worry about that. So, if Connor wants to have a go at that, he can. Go on, mate. Did you have something you wanted to jump to?
10.
Yeah, 10. 11 and a 10,
10.
and a 10 in there, and 11 in there. We are the best. We are the best. Welcome to the Conor McGilligan channel. I'm giving everybody in the Leeds squad a 6. I really rate the Sunderland wingers. I think, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ludicrous, that man. So yeah, spoiler alert, I'm off to see him now. Actually, I'm off to meet with him now to do a bit of content at Bramall Lane, hopefully. So that should be interesting. Any final points, mate, you want to make before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, again, I want Bramall Lane to erupt. I want the players to give us something to cheer about early. I want the fans to really go for it, because I think it's required. I think we need to do that. I was watching Bayern Munich last night. I just want to mention this, and Austin Trusty and Cameron Carter playing centre half for them, keeping Bayern Munich out the game for 90 minutes. I was like, what is happening here? This is unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. And,
I know, mate.
And they were really good as well, calm on the ball and stuff like that.
Funny, we could have got some players like that in our side.
Oh no, tell me about it. Oh dear. But no, and all I could hear all the way through, even when Celtic were like threatening, trying to score a goal, was the Bayern fans behind I think the German fans are brilliant, aren't they?
Yeah, they
behind
are.
the goal, just waving the flags, just all of a sudden they're like this for the whole thing, shouting and going bananas, even when their team was playing really, really poorly. I was like, let's have a little bit of that,
Just a little bit of it,
just a bit of it on Monday night. Just create that atmosphere that we've heard, seen, or we've all been there, we've all had it before.
Love it, mate.
Just get your singing voices out and just go for it. And on Monday night, because that could be a big difference. That people have spoke about the Lane this season. Let's get back to it. Let's score early and just let it go.
Mate, no better way to end. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you to everybody in the comments for joining in with us and letting us know how wrong I was on certain players. And that's fair. That's fair. It's all about opinions, isn't it? But for now, come on, you red and white wizards.
On the blade.